Mass Media.
Mixed Grounds is proud to present I Just Wanted to Push Record, celebrating arts, community, and culture. Part of the Olas Media Network.
Welcome to I Just Wanted to Push Record, a producer's podcast, where lifestyle, arts, community, culture, and production meet. Two producers, two cultures, and a whole lot of flavor. Join hosts Lena and JC for fun conversations, cool interviews, sharing tips, laughing through production hiccups, and celebrating the art of it all. Ready to roll? It all starts with pushing record.
San Diego-based DJ who's spent his life visiting just about every country in the world. So when he ran out of new nations, he decided to create one of his own.
Yeah, Randy R. Dub Williams. He's a late-night slow jams DJ. Well, now he's a self-proclaimed dictator of the Republic of Slowjamastan.
Slowjamastan covers 11 acres and is ruled over by His Excellency Supreme Sultan Randy R. Dub Williams.
Randy R. Dub Williams se presenta como el Sultán de Slowjamastan.
The Republic of Slowjamastan.
Republic of Slowjamastan.
Republic of Slowjamastan.
Republic of Slowjamastan.
Slowjamastan.
The Republic of Slowjamastan.
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 Republic of Slowjamastan.
República de Slowjamastan.
The United Territories of the Sovereign Nation of the People's Republic of Slowjamastan.
All right, today I've got a really special guest. You have probably heard his voice late at night, especially. Setting the mood with some smooth R&B on Sunday night, Slow Jams. A show that's now in over 200 cities around the world. He's been in radio since he was a teenager. He's interviewed some of the biggest names in music. And somehow, he's also managed to visit every single country on the planet. Yeah, all of them. He's a storyteller, a traveler, humanitarian, and honestly, one of the most interesting people in the radio game. And on a personal note, I actually had the pleasure of working with Arda before. It was during COVID, when COVID hit. I was an intern at local media San Diego, bouncing between stations like Z90, Magic 92.5, and 91X here in San Diego. One day, I was working on an event. We had prizes, music, games, and suddenly Ardab shows up, grabs the mic, hypes the crowd up, and just brings the energy, like very, very up. That's super cool. Then I noticed he was wearing a jacket. That was a jean jacket. And it had patches from all these different countries. And I spotted my country's flag, Colombia. So naturally, I had to ask, okay, if you had been there. And then we started talking, and that's how our friendship kicked off. Today, we are actually recording on location at the radio station here in San Diego. So this is a full circle moment, and I'm hyped to have him on the show. So Ardab, so excited to have you here today.
Well, I was excited to have you at my event years ago because we got to speak about Colombia, and you made that event. I think it was at a furniture store or a cell phone store.
It was actually it was Toyota.
All right. Well,
it was Toyota, but it had bunch of things all over.
No offense about Toyota or any car dealerships, but not the most exciting events. You know, when you think about radio, the exciting events are the concerts and the clubs and the block parties. And we were at a car dealership for a sale on a Sunday on the Tundra or whatever. So it was an escape for me because I got to, where are you from in Colombia? And I got to ask you questions and you asked me questions. And, the thing about that jacket is people either love or hate that jacket. I have a friend, and whenever she sees me, even if she doesn't see me on Facebook, she'll just put a comment about how hideous the jacket is. She calls it, and pardon my French, she calls the jacket vagina repellent. She says there's no way that I could ever pull any game with this atrocious jacket. I've got a couple of friends like that. But I think, jokes aside, that jacket really stirs up and kicks off conversation.
It does.
People look for their flag. I remember being in the subway in Washington, D.C., and the guy's like, I'm from Slovenia, where's my flag? And he's, there it is. So anyway, yeah, it's a jacket completely covered with flags from different countries.
Yeah, it was super exciting because when I started seeing all the flags, I was like, okay, where is mine, right? And that's when I was like, okay, have you been in my country?
Of course.
And it was super cool just to get to know. And I even remembered I asked you, are you going to have space for all of them?
Which I don't, by the way. But let me tell you, and I guess we're just jumping right into it. But, you know, a blessing for me, one amazing gift that travel has given to me, and it's a gift that keeps on giving, not just the experience of going somewhere, but having those memories and then meeting someone like you, or really meeting someone from any country in the world and being able to share something in common. And my favorite thing to do is, and this is a little self-serving, but my favorite thing to do is if I meet someone, specifically, it happens a lot in Uber drivers, taxi drivers, I'll look at them, I'll listen to their accent, I'll see their name, and I will ask very politely, can I guess where you're from? And I have to set that up. I want to be respectful.
Yeah.
And I like to see if I can nail it, if I can get it in one guess. And I was at Target the other day, and a young lady welcomed me in. She was the greeter. And it was slow, so I felt she had some time for some conversation. And I knew where she was from just by looking at her. Just I thought I knew where she was from, and it turned out I was correct. So I looked at her and I said, ma'am, I go, do you mind? I go, I love to travel. Can you indulge me? Do you mind? Can I guess where you're from? Don't tell me. Can I guess where you're from? And she looked at me with this look like, you'll never guess. But she goes, sure. So I looked at her. And I said, all right. Well, you're from Africa. She's like, duh. I'm like, okay. You're from East Africa. So then she's like, yes. Mm-hmm. Then I said, you're from, and the country was Eritrea. I said, you're from Eritrea. Wow. It's above Ethiopia. And she goes, and she's blank faced, like, how did you know?
I will never guess that.
And I said, are you from Asmara, which is the city? And she goes, all right, where's the hidden cameras? Like, yep. And I've been able to, I got about a 70% success rate. I'm wrong a lot, but they can't believe it. And she told me, she said, how did you know that? And second of all, she goes, the people I work with, they haven't even heard of my country. Yeah. They don't even know the name Eritrea. And here you are, you walked in off the street. So things like that make my heart so full and so rich. And I love doing it. Again, I'm wrong plenty of times.
Well, you were wrong with me.
Was
actually,
I?
Yes.
Was it Venezuela?
You said Venezuela. You said, you were like, you might not be Mexican, but is it? And I was like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then later you were like, I think you said...
I did it with you. I can't believe it.
Panama. Yeah. And then later I was like, you're so close. And I was like, you're so close. And then you were like, Colombia. Don't tell me you're from Colombia. And then I was like, yes. So that was like, but it's so great. I love that because it shows also the connection through cultures to different, how in the United States we have so many people from different places, right? Yeah. And I think that's amazing. And we're going to talk more about that. So, but I want to start with some stuff that, because it's very important for us to know where you're coming from, right? Like, tell us a little bit.
I was born on a small farm in Colombia. Just kidding.
I was like... Wait, what? Did I miss that part?
I was born in Chicago, and my parents divorced when I was small. So a couple of years in Chicago, not long. And my dad moved to Florida, and my mom moved to Los Angeles. I moved with my mom. So I grew up in Los Angeles for about 10 years, lived in Florida for a couple of years with my dad. And at 15 years old, I moved to Tucson, Arizona. From there, high school and my first beginnings of my career. At 15, I was very lucky. I moved to Tucson and all my dreams came true literally that first summer when I was 15 years old in Tucson. Great city. It was a great place to start radio. And I've been back here in San Diego, California for 15 years now. Wow. I did make a short stop in Brazil. I lived in Brazil for a couple of years.
Nice.
And I most recently just become a dual citizen of Mexico. And I have a house in Mexico now and also a Mexican passport. So I am now soy Mexicano.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Mexicano. That's so great.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And also, all right, so we know him because the radio, right? So I want to know a little more about that. You know, Slow Jams, like it started as a local show. And now it's syndicated over 200 cities. Yeah. So what was the, make or break moment that took it from a local passion project to a global radio phenomenon.
Thank you for asking. You know, as a child, I discovered radio very early. And 12, 13, 14 years old, I was a very, very, very incredibly romantic child, probably beyond my years. I was a romantic, sentimental guy. And I discovered this show on my local radio station called The Quiet Storm. And actually, The Quiet Storm, which plays love songs, urban love songs, this type of programming can be heard all across America. But in the 90s, it was really, 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 really big. And I fell in love with the format. I would stay up late at night as a kid and listen to these love songs. And then the DJ would come on and talk softly and do dedications. And I said, I want to do that one day. And I was lucky enough to start radio very young in Tucson, Arizona, as I mentioned. And the show was already there. I in no way created the show. I kind of took it over locally. And the show was called Sunday Night Slow Jams. And you know what? Nobody at the radio station wanted that shift. Number one, they didn't really love the music. I did. Number two, who wants to work on a Sunday night? That's like the worst time to work. So I'm like, well, I want to do it. Yeah. So here I was making my dreams come true at 16 years old, doing a local slow jam show. The ratings were good. It was popular. A lot of people listened. I had friends say, hey, why don't you syndicate the show, put this on a whole bunch of radio stations? And I still don't think I have the best voice for a Quiet Storm or slow jam show. Other people in the field have this deep, Barry White, thunderous, bassy voice. I don't have that. I have an okay voice. I didn't have that. But the long story short is I had the passion and I had the love of the music. And I think I do a decent job connecting people. And we really make the callers and the listeners the star of the show. I'm just the conduit. So, you know, years later, maybe about 25 years ago, I had two radio stations in separate parts of the country by coincidence ask me, they said, R-Dub, can we run your slow jam show? So I said, yeah, let's do it. And I made kind of a national version without my local radio station's call letters. And so my first two affiliates were Nogales, Arizona. Tucson was where it started. My first two affiliates were Nogales and Tulsa, Oklahoma. Oh. And, you know, look, I said, hey, this works in Arizona. Will it work in Oklahoma? It's a much different demographic, much different audience.
Very,
a lot less Hispanic in Oklahoma. My show is very geared towards the Latino audience, English speaking. Anyway, again, long story short, the ratings were amazing. And so we went from 3 stations to 6 to 12 to 24. And then soon I got a deal with a syndication company. And here we are, about 250 stations in 17 countries.
250. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Did you ever thought was going to be like
Never
this?
Never in a million years. Yeah.
This is amazing. Well, I'm very happy for that, Ardab. And
thank you.
Because, you know, radio has changed drastically over the years to streaming, you know, social media, now podcasting, and here we are. Yep. So what's your take on the future of radio?
I don't know. I'm usually very, very, very positively optimistic. Look, radio has faced competitors ever since the TV came out. I mean, if you can imagine in the 1940s, everybody listened to radio. Families gathered around the radio on a Saturday night to hear a radio program, a drama. And then all of a sudden, this invention called the television comes out, where now you can actually see moving pictures. Yeah. That should have been the death of radio. Because why would you ever need a radio if you have a television? So throughout the decades, new inventions come about. The cassette player, the CD player, the iPod. It's tougher now more than ever just because there are so many choices. So I won't sit here and lie to you. We're in a very, very competitive landscape, and I don't know the answer to that. What I do know is that the shows and the content that radio provides, specifically the personalities, those will thrive because people seek those out. For example, there's no show on satellite radio, or there's no podcast, or there's no Spotify or Pandora channel that can match what Sunday Night Slow Jams does, which is connect callers. There's not yet. So, and there's many other shows out there, whether it's a morning show or a special mix show that you can only get on radio. So I hope the industry invests more into personalities. this is a whole separate show because there's so many intricacies to the whole thing. But one of the big downfalls were when the corporations were allowed to buy as many radio stations as possible. It used to be that a company could only own, I don't know the number, but maybe it was 5 or 6 or 10 radio stations. And in the 90s, the U.S. government said, nope, you can own as many as you want. And now you have stations companies that own 1,000 stations.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
But I love radio. I'm a student of radio, and I hope someone listening to your podcast will find my show. They can go to slowjams.com, and it'll give them a little list of all the different stations.
Perfect. Yeah, so you guys hear it. Like, go check it out because it's super fun. I have listened to it a couple of times, and I do enjoy. I'm a radio person, too. I do love to listen to the radio. And I mean, and when I worked here, I can say it was like one of the best experiences I have had. And that's why I say, like, what helps you to stay, ahead of the curve? Like, because with all these changes, the streamings and all that stuff, what you think is like one thing that helps you to be there, like to stay?
I think it's the, and I don't know if technologically, I don't think we'll ever be ahead of the curve because, live radio does not allow you to skip songs, right?
Yeah,
or program your own playlist. But I think you have to look at the things that set radio apart besides the curation of the playlist that we do in radio. I go back to the personalities. There are so many amazing radio personalities all over the country, but even here in San Diego, whether it's Jagger and Christie on Magic 92.5 or Javier the X-Man or Rick Morton on Z90. These are people, these are humans with amazing personalities. They have stories to tell.
Yeah.
Some of them are extremely funny. And these are things you cannot get on our competition like Spotify or XM. So that is the defining differentiator between radio and all of the other forms. What the future holds, I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah. No, I agree with that because now that you mentioned like the personalities, that's one of the biggest things that for me kept me in the radio, right? I was listening to Z90, which is like a funny part of when I started working in local media San Diego. I was listening Z90 every morning. And I used to work with taking care of kids and all that, and I was putting in the radio, and we were like singing songs or listening to stories or laughing about the jokes that they were doing. And then when I got to work I was like, wait a minute, I'm gonna work with these people. Like, this is crazy. So I do love it, and thank you for the opportunity to let us hear your story and all about what you do. So now we're going to go into know more about the traveling because that's another big thing from you. And I know you have visited like 198 countries, or is it more?
Yes.
All of them.
So there's a couple of different. If you ask how many countries are there, you may hear some different answers. But officially, there are 193 UN recognized nations in the world. There are other disputed territories, but we'll go with 193.
Okay,
for today.
So 193.
Yeah.
And then that is including North Korea and Somalia, which are like, hard ones.
It's the one everybody asks to go, even North Korea?
Yes.
So
that's what I'm pointing it out here because, yes, I think I know that's one of the toughest. But what's the wildest story from your travels? Like something that will only happen to Ardab?
The wildest story I could never say on any recording ever. It could never be
like the second one then that you can share.
Could never be in the public domain. Wildest story. First of all, I've been really lucky that I've been safe and I haven't had too many wild stories because when you say wild story, usually it involves getting thrown in jail,
getting in trouble.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, there's a story that I visited. There was one trip where I visited five or seven different African countries. These were all new countries for me, and one of the countries was a country at civil war, and the country was called South Sudan. And not many people had visited South Sudan at this time. And I was very scared to visit South Sudan. So, again, I was visiting 5 or 7 countries. I heavily researched South Sudan. I didn't research any of the other countries. Well, South Sudan was actually fine. but I got in a little bit of trouble going to one of the other countries. I didn't research it because I was concentrated on South Sudan. And it's not the most exciting story. It really isn't. But, apparently there are two African nations that don't get along. I wouldn't be fair to say it's an Israel-Palestine thing, but there's a lot of countries in the world that have rivals. For example, Greece and Turkey, etc. Well, anyway, I visited both Rwanda and Burundi, and apparently they don't like each other. And I crossed the land border from Rwanda into Burundi, and I guess nobody crosses that land border. And I noticed something was up when I arrived. I had a driver, and he drove me from Rwanda, from the capital Kigali, to the border of this African nation called Burundi. Now, Lena, have you even heard of Burundi?
No.
It's one of the countries that I knew nothing about. I saw a picture and there were some palm trees. It looked nice, But anyway, I show up at the border with a driver that, I don't know, I didn't speak much, and something seemed off. And I'll tell you what seemed off is most border crossings are vibrant. You've got commerce. Look at the border from California to Mexico. What do you see? There's a billion vendors. They're selling churros. They're selling champurrada. They're selling sombreros.
Yep.
Statues, golden eagles, and then you see trucks and trade and commerce and tourists and these big. I show up at this land border. There was nothing happening. It was desolate. I'm so ignorant. I have no clue what's going on. I get stamped out of Burundi, and stamped out of Rwanda. He walks me into Burundi, and all of a sudden I am surrounded by like 5 or 6 cops, and they're all speaking in their local language, either tribal or maybe there's French. I don't even remember. All I knew is they are surrounding me like I am an attraction. And in hindsight, yeah, they're surrounding the gringo because they're like, what the heck is this guy doing here?
Oh, my God.
And so I was only in Burundi for, maybe not even 24 hours, but the entire time I was escorted by the police, and they wouldn't leave my side. And we would pull over to look at a lake, and then the police officer would tell me how much that cost to look at the lake.
Wow.
Like, I have to pay you for that. And that went the entire time. And it was just a series of different checkpoints. And the road into town was desolate. There were people sitting on the road. And every village you'd go to, you'd see the village chief would have a rope strung across the road, and you'd have to pull over, and some military guy with a beret would order you out of the car and look at your passport and really kind of treated me like I was a spy. Wow. And so I'm giving you just a few of the bullet points.
Wow.
But it was a little unnerving. It's a reminder that that's how different people are treated in different parts of the world. So now I got to feel that for the first time. But, at the end of the day, I didn't know what was next. And I really felt uncomfortable. Are these guys going to barge into my hotel room in the middle of the night, take me to jail so they can, extort bail money from my family back at home? But I ended up in the bar that night, of course, buying the entire police department beers. And I did make it out of Burundi, but it was a little unsettling. I would like to return and give it another chance, maybe to the capital.
And how you manage the language?
So the cool thing, the privilege that Americans have, and anyone who knows English has, Lena's, or you, anyone else who knows English is so widely spoken these days. You can pretty much go anywhere, almost anywhere in the world, and if someone doesn't know English that you're talking to, someone in earshot does. And the perfect example is I'm in the island of Comoros, which is a country. Lena, have you heard of Comoros?
I think I saw it one time in a map, but
and the reason
more than that.
The reason I ask is this is another country that I had never heard of. And I get a big kick out of visiting countries that 5 years ago I didn't even know existed. To me, that's mind-blowing that there are countries with presidents, political systems, celebrities, commerce, national anthem, history, everything that as Americans we've never heard of.
Oh yeah.
But back to the English, I'm in Comoros and I'm talking to the cab driver who just speaks French, and I don't know any French, and we're struggling, and a student crossing the intersection nearby hears that I'm trying to speak whatever, English, French, and comes over to help us. So my point is
nice.
that most anywhere you are in the world, if they don't know English, someone nearby does. And a lot of times it's a younger person. They're very excited to apply their English to a real life situation. Because if you're in Comoros or Mongolia was another place, how often do you get to interact with an American or a Brit or someone who speaks English? You know English because they teach you that in high school. Well, now I can actually meet an American or a Brit. So my point is, we are extremely lucky to know English. I can only imagine, what if I didn't know? What if I'm from Germany or from Finland or Brazil and I just speak Portuguese? English really connects the world.
Yeah.
And now there are apps and translator apps, etc.
Yeah.
So it's easier than ever to communicate with people. I wish I could come here and tell you how hard it was to travel and that I'm some hero because I managed to, go everywhere in the world and only knowing English and Spanish. But the truth is, there's so many shortcuts these days. It used to be you couldn't read a menu, and now you can open up your phone and point your phone at the menu, and it translates the words for you. It's incredible.
Definitely. It's amazing. Technology, is helping in different ways. It sometimes is making people lazy too.
No, it really is. I mean, if you wanted directions before, you actually had to, talk to someone and ask.
Yeah.
And now you can just use your phone. I want to go back to your most craziest story. I will tell you one of the wildest trips I've ever had was visiting Somalia. And after visiting every country in the world, when I do interviews, the most common question is, one of the most common questions is, well, what have you learned? What have you taken away?
Yeah.
And if I could only give you one sentence of what I learned, I've learned that the world is not as dangerous as the media portrays it.
Just taking a quick pause here. Enjoying the convo so far? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more fun, tips, and stories from Lena and JC.
Hey, it's JC. As one of the founders of Oldest Media, when we first set out, we wanted to build a laid-back studio where creators could come in, hit record, and then just let us handle the rest. Whether you're new or seasoned, if you're looking for someone to make your great show idea a reality, then we've got your back. Check us out at oldestmedia.com and see how we can help you push record on your next big project.
Todo el mundo te dice que deberías tener un podcast, pero no sabes por dónde empezar o cómo hacerlo realidad. Hola, soy Lina Álvarez, productora ejecutiva de Olas Media. Hemos creado un espacio en San Diego donde puedes relajarte, grabar tu podcast y dejar que nosotros nos encarguemos de todo, desde la creación de tu marca, la edición, hasta asegurarnos de que tu show llegue a la audiencia correcta. ¿Por qué no dejar en manos de profesionales lo que te tomaría meses de prueba y error? En Olas lo mantenemos relajado pero profesional, para que tú solo te enfoques en contar tu historia. Si estás listo para llevar tu podcast al siguiente nivel, visítanos en olasmedia.com y hagamos este sueño realidad.
And we are on. Oh, wait. I almost forgot to push record. Now over to Lena and JC.
I've seen so many places that going into, I was completely frightened and, really I was scared and asking myself, oh my God, what am I doing here? Do I really want to step off the plane here in Iraq or Syria or even Venezuela? And I leave with a completely different outcome. I leave with friends. I leave with knowledge. I leave with a full heart. And so that's my takeaway. Now, that being said, there's one country that is dangerous and is scary.
Yeah.
And I hope things change.
Somalia.
Somalia is a failed state, and the government, there's no central government. They don't have control of the state. And so if a person looks like they're not from there, for example, if they look like you or me, they're unfortunately instantly a target. And so Somalia, I really want to go back, but even there I was on edge the entire time. As a tourist, you have to rent or you have to hire a security company, and that includes an armored car with bulletproof glass. And there's a pickup truck that rides in front of you with 4 guys with big, Kalashnikovs or M16s or so, the big guns. And they're with you the entire time. And so,
did you know that before going there?
It was a condition. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it was a condition. In fact, they won't let you out of the airport if you're not local and you do not have security. But you're on edge the entire time, and it's too bad. The terrorism there, the groups run roughshod there, and just a small example, a story that a local told me is like, for example, Lena, if you would show up at the local park or the fish market, there are kids, maybe 12, 14 years old. They see someone like you, they pick up their phone and they text their boss and say, hey, we have a foreigner in the market. Wow. So they can cause chaos, come and do a suicide bomb or something, or kidnap you, because your head is worth, as an American, or another, from any other country really outside of Africa, you're worth a lot. So anyway, that would be my craziest thing. Now, thank the Lord, nothing bad happened there.
Yeah.
The people of Somalia are wonderful, and they don't deserve that. I really hope there's an ending to the chaos that's happening in Somalia. But it's a wild card. You don't know what's going to happen when you go out there.
Wow, I never imagined that. Yeah. I mean, I was curious about it, and also but I would not think it was going to be, in my opinion, and as an ignorant, right, worse than North Korea. Right.
Well, I'm gonna blow your mind.
Yeah, but now I'm gonna ask you about that one.
I'm gonna blow your mind.
Okay.
The safest place a tourist can be in the world is North Korea.
Wow. See, that's why I wanted to know.
And you're saying, well, how can that be? I thought North Korea is so dangerous. Mm-hmm. When you visit North Korea as a tourist, you are cared for and you are watched and you are with a government minder. Anytime you step foot outside of your hotel building, you're not allowed to ever, as a tourist, to ever be alone in North Korea, okay? So you're asking, well, why is it the safest place to be? No one will bother you in North Korea. Now, you have to behave yourself. You can't, don't do anything dumb, but no. And the reason I say this, if you are in North Korea visiting, which you can, by the way, if you're in North Korea visiting, you're with your tour guide, you're with your government minder. If anybody on the street were to come up and try to pickpocket you or touch you or hassle you because of the regime of North Korea, they would disappear. Oh, they would disappear. So my point is, look, the folks in North Korea, they have it really rough. But as a visitor, you are treated and guarded like a VIP. Nothing, I'm telling you, nothing would ever happen to you by a North Korean citizen. Versus you go to London, you go to Paris, these big cities, or any place in the world, by your own. I don't care if you're in Istanbul or you're in Cape Town, South Africa. You walk down the wrong street, you happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. You can get mugged, pickpocketed, hopefully not assaulted or raped. But unfortunately, all these things happen to tourists in places. Yeah. It will not happen in North Korea. So it blows people's mind when I tell them, actually, no, the safest place for tourists to be, believe it or not, is North Korea. That's a fact. And show me the data. But again, bad things have happened to people in North Korea when they misbehave. That's the caveat. You can't misbehave. You got to imagine you're a guest in someone else's house or you're in church.
Yeah, so. Just be respectful and, follow their
Don't steal.
Lead and,
exactly. Don't disrespect. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. It just opens my mind so much. I love it. Because I want to get to a point also that to visit a lot of countries. Mm-hmm. I have been in a couple, but not definitely so many that I would like to explore. So thank you for sharing that. And, for the audience to know these little things we never imagined. That we get scared because, social media or what people say or what they have heard, but that never experience. They get us and then we're like, nah, I don't want to be there because it's dangerous. Right. And as a Colombian, I get that a lot, right?
Of course, the stereotypes,
I get that a lot. So I'm I always encourage people, find out for yourself, just behave, be in the right place at the right time too. Yep. And just like we say, don't give papaya.
I don't know that expression. That's new.
I'm going to teach you that. Okay. So don't give papaya. The papaya when you cut it in the middle and then you eat it. You open like that. So that's basically if you are out in a bad place with your phone out, what you expect to happen.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Stuff like that. So papaya given, papaya eaten.
Interesting. Don't give papaya.
Don't give papaya.
All right.
So for the people
Good
there.
reminder, yeah.
Colombian. But yeah, that's amazing that you're letting us be part of that story. So now I want to know, because for all those places that you have visited, there is an initiative you started in a project you started for Africa, right? And I'm super curious about that. How you managed to do that? Like, this is a big project. It's a humanitarian project, like helping them with water, right? So tell me a little more about that, because I don't even know how to start it, because I don't want to say it wrong.
Well, thank you. You gave me way too much credit. I didn't do anything but provide a conduit from, my listeners to the organization. It's an American organization called Hope for Kids, and they do a lot of projects around the world with many countries. But one thing they do that I'm so proud of them for doing is they bring clean water. It's the idea is very simple. They simply bring clean water to villages that don't have clean water. And it was after a trip to Africa that I saw some of the conditions in some of the villages, and then I also found out how I can help. But again, it's not complicated. There's just some really, really rural African villages. Hope for Kids does a lot of work in Uganda, and they simply don't have access to water, or they're drinking from a dirty water source contaminated with, for example, maybe the same source of water that animals bathe in and drink. Mosquitoes. Some of them may have to walk miles. There's many, many, many stories, but it leads to a death rate of premature death, and babies not surviving, etc. So it's simple. It takes money to build wells, but that's what we do. We raise money, and then we go out with Hope for Kids, and they have an amazing team on the ground in Uganda, and they drill and build and maintain clean water wells. And I went on the air and we put together a campaign for some wells. I think we've done 3 so far, and I've asked my audience to chip in. And we have an audience of 5 million, so if everybody gave $1, we would be able to build hundreds of wells. But we've done 3 wells so far, and then you go. It's fun if you can, or if you'd like to, you can go out for the christening of the well, where they cut the ribbon, and it's beautiful, and you meet so many amazing people. I met 2 children that just took my heart, and I was able to kind of from far away, be a foster, like adopting parent. So help them with school and uniforms and things they need.
It's like the Godparents program, kind of.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, then we exchange letters, and so it touched me a lot. You can get information on that as well at slowjams.com.
Nice. Well, that's a great initiative, and something that I want to say that not all people do is you have a voice, right? People listen to you, and you have an audience. And when you do these things, that it gives a chance for changing lives.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I do really appreciate that. And when people do that, it gets power. It's powerful, and helping people to have a better life. Thank you for doing that.
Look, but don't thank me. It's my listeners. So I have these amazing listeners that make it happen, and I have to be clear that it's not, sure, I'm using my voice, but at the end of the day, it's our amazing listeners that listen to Slow Jams that step up, take out their wallets, and donate, and then we build these wells, and it's a fantastic thing.
Amazing. Well, thanks to the audience for supporting it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. I think we're getting close to this, but there is so many things I want to talk about, because RDAB has so many things and so many interesting things I want to know, and I want the people to hear about. And one of them, I'm going to show you guys some pictures or videos of this, but there is a nation out there called Slowjamastan. Is that right?
There's a whole country called Slowjam. What? Really? There's a country?
Inside our nation, you were never alone. No. It's this Suljamastan. Suljamastan is where I'm from. This is my home.
Have you been there?
No, I have not.
Qué lástima.
I know. I gotta go. But tell us about it.
So
please.
I'm the Sultan. I'm the leader of Slowjamastan. Slowjamastan is the newest country in the world. We declared independence December 1st, 2021. It is a enclave, so it is a country within a country. Or is that an No, I think it's an enclave. And it's surrounded by California. It can be found 2 hours east of San Diego. It's 11 acres, 22,000 registered citizens. None of them live there yet. What else? It has a border. It has its own currency. You can see on the wall. I have my currency. It has passports. It has its own national anthem. It has its own laws. It is forbidden to wear Crocs or even bring Crocs, the shoes.
Thank you.
Into
Thank
Slowjamastan.
you. Someone needed to do that.
So Slowjamastan is a real place. It's 11 acres, and it is a country, or is it? So that's the big question. And so for folks listening that have no clue what we're talking about, I will take you a little bit behind the curtain.
Please.
The headline is, he visited every country in the world, so he made his own. What do you do after seeing every country in the world? What can you possibly do? Well, you have to make your own country.
Yeah.
It is, once again, it's not my idea. There's many people have done this before. They're called micronations, and in layman's terms, it's basically a weird person like myself who decides to take a piece of property and call it his country.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I was inspired in 2021. It was pandemic time, and there were countries, most of the countries were closed. I had a lot of time in the U.S. I started to get stir crazy. I started to get anxious, like I got to go to a new country, but I had no options. So I heard about this guy in Nevada, and his country was called Molossia. So I flew to Reno on Southwest Airlines. I rented a car. I drove an hour outside of town, and met the president, Kevin Baugh, of the Republic of Molossia, which is it's in his house, it's his yard, little country in the middle of Nevada. And again, it's fun. It's dumb. It's silly. But I got inspired, and I wanted to make my own. And Slowjamastan quickly became the most famous micronation almost overnight. There's hundreds of micronations all around the world, and there's some really interesting stories. Of course, they say none of them are, really recognized from, they're not real countries, etc. It's a fun experiment. We can talk for hours about it, but I talk to kids at school in geography classes, and I ask the kids, I go, well, what makes a country? And it gives them some really cool critical thinking skills. They'll say, well, it's got to have a border. Well, Slowjamastan has a border.
Yeah.
It's got to have a leader. Well, Slowjamastan has a leader. Well, does it have its own so it has its own money.
Yeah. The land.
But if you look at real life comparisons, you look at a country like Taiwan. Taiwan is not recognized by everyone. China, if you ask China, China will say, no. Taiwan is ours. That's not a country. That's China. Is Vatican City a country? Many people say, no, that belongs to Italy. So there's different, Palestine, Kosovo, Western Sahara. There's different countries. They're all gray areas. So it's a fun experiment. It's a fun project. You should definitely follow us on social media. Go down the rabbit hole. I mean, we could talk for hours, and I know we don't have that time. But I am the Sultan. I do put on a Sultan suit.
Yes. So I have seen the pictures.
It looks like Gaddafi.
I've seen the pictures. I've seen the signs, like the passports and all that stuff. Like, it's the next level. So definitely, I invite you guys to check it out because it's gonna be super fun.
Are you a citizen?
The Crocs.
Lena, are you a citizen of Slowjamastan?
Not yet.
Why not? ¿Por qué no?
I don't know. What do I have to do?
You sign up on the website. It's free. It takes 30 seconds. But you go to slowjamastan.org and you can sign up. You just have to pledge your allegiance to the Sultan and promise to never bring Crocs into my country.
Done.
Okay.
Done. Easy for me. Okay. Yeah. That's my next homework. So what is the reaction of people when they go visit or when you tell them about this country?
The funnest part of satire, whatever satire we're talking about, whether it's online or a comedian, etc. The funnest part about satire is watching the 1% of the population who don't get the joke. Because like everybody who knows, once you learn about Slowjamastan and you read it, and okay, I get it. It's a fake country, a guy dressed as Gaddafi, outlawing Crocs. Okay, we get the joke. So then think about this big group of people that know about Slowjamastan, and then we get a big kick out of the 1% of people who don't understand Slowjamastan. And all you have to do is go on social media. There's always one guy who's like, this is illegal. The FBI is going to come and they're going to tear you down like the Branch Davidians or like Jonestown or they literally think I'm a cult leader. There's just one guy who's like, you're a cult. I'm like, dude, and I don't tell him this, but in my mind I'm like, no, bro, you're really dumb. Like if you dude, like, do you not have an imagination? Like, how do you get through a day at Disneyland? You know, like, that's not a real haunted mansion. I'm like, no shit. It's fun. So that's the funnest part. And the funnest part is exposing Slowjamastan to people in public that have never heard of it. So we have fun in the actual land.
Yeah.
But for example, the most outrageous thing we've ever done is we were able to get into the NATO summit in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
And we were able to, I don't want to say sneak in, but we were able to gain access to the NATO summit in Washington, D.C. with all of these world leaders. We got in our uniforms, and the press was there, the worldwide press. We got mobbed. There was a line of reporters that wanted to interview us because all of a sudden they have access to a world leader and a dictator. And the Sultan has an accent. He speaks with an accent when he's being interviewed. And I was dry and just dead serious in my accent. I said, we're the world's newest country, and we're here because we're looking for a tank. And if anyone has a deal on a tank, let us know. And people were like, what the actual F? Took about 40 minutes before we got kicked out. But it was the funnest thing ever. So it's things like that. The Sultan got a parking ticket. By the way, I have a Slowjamastan police car. Okay, we call it a diplomatic video. I got a parking ticket at the airport for being in a red zone. I showed up in court to fight the parking ticket in the uniform, and the judge was like, "What the hell is going on?" So those are the funnest times are going out in public in this uniform, or even just walking through downtown LA, or taking a flight on an airplane in full regalia with the Sultan uniform on.
I love it. This is so fun when I saw it first time, and then especially the part of the Crocs, I was like, yes, please.
Yeah. They should be illegal everywhere.
They should be illegal. I'm like, no, they're those ugly, and like people keep saying like they're comfortable, but I'm like, I don't care. They're just like, ugh.
Maybe it's part of the age I am, but I grew up in a time where you wanted to look halfway decent leaving the house. You didn't want to look like a clown or an idiot. And Crocs, no matter how comfortable they are, you look so freaking stupid wearing Crocs. And what hurts my heart even more is when I see a good-looking person wearing Crocs.
Oh.
I expect someone wearing Crocs to be dumpy and frumpy and like, you know, whatever. Same with Birkenstocks, those shoes. You know those shoes with the buckles? So now now it's become the thing that like I'll see a good-looking Latina woman wear Crocs or those Birkenstocks. I'm like, why would you like that? It confuses my mind.
I'm like, that's not Latina. I'm just kidding.
Like, what is? No, it's everywhere. Crocs are in Brazil. I'm like, what? Oh, it's horrible. Anyway, so I said I'm going to do something about it. So.
Yes. Well, and then just let me say, like, I just got a really good water. And this water is from Slowjamastan. But the funny part is, like, I didn't even realize what it said in the label because I was like reading too fast. But it says Slowjamastan Porter-Batrol, which I think is like fantastic. It's like super fun, and I can see that it has like the website too.
So we have a border patrol, but the word border patrol was copywritten, trademarked by the U.S. So we switched the B and the P.
Yes.
So as Lita mentioned, it's Porter-Batrol.
Yeah.
So if you think the water is funny, imagine the truck we have with the the white truck with the green stripe down the side.
And the V.
That says Porter-Batrol. And we have a chief Porter-Batrol agent, which is Mark Corona. And he drives around in that truck and wears a beret. He scares the crap out of people.
He is here in the battle label. Yeah. This is so fun. And it says, you think you have got what it takes? And then you see the picture of the PB chief, Mark Corona. This is amazing.
Yeah. He's always looking for agents.
It's amazing. Well, this has been super fun. I could be here for a really long time talking with you.
We went all over the
everything.
place. We went from radio to geography to the ridiculousness of Slowjamastan. That's all I got.
Yes.
And that's the only room I have in my brain. I cannot take on anything else or I'll explode.
No, I do love it. Thank you for giving us a sneak peek, because this is just a little bit of what everything that you had done and everything that you still do, right? So I invite you all to follow RDub, and can you please let us know your social media?
Here we go. So Slowjamastan, so at Slowjamastan on all social media platforms. And the radio show is Slow Jams, so at Slow Jams. The website is slowjamastan.org. Slow Jams website is slowjams.com. Or you can Google me. I'm an easy guy to find.
Nice. Is there anything else you want to share or say?
Yes, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm glad we're friends, and I love watching your career path, and there's no one I know with more passion and drive and good nature about her, and I wish you all the best, and when you're on 2020 or one of these major networks, don't forget me, okay?
Definitely. Well, I never forget you guys. See, I was like, I need to get RDub. But thank you for saying that. Thank you for supporting us too, like being part of the show. And I just wanted to push record, a producer's podcast sponsored by Mixed Grounds, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Perfect.
Woo!
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to I Just Wanted to Push Record, a producer's podcast. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To hear other episodes or read the associated blogs, visit olasmedia.com. And be sure to follow us on Instagram with the handle Olas Media Studio. I Just Wanted to Push Record, a producer's podcast, is produced in studios in San Diego, California, and Tijuana, Baja, California. Olas Media is an IVC media company.
Olas Media.